Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blaze podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a stabby chaos coordinator, and one chief shenanigator, geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Mr. Robert Tillsley, introduce himself to our listeners, viewers at home.
Hey everyone, I am Robert Tillsley. I am, funnily enough, from Australia, just in case you didn't guess that, speaking live from my aircraft carrier. I am a science fiction and fantasy author, and I've written everything from a picture book for kids right through to what we're talking a bit about today, my latest A Portal Fantasy.
All right, so we've got a new audience since we had you last on and we made that joke. So if you don't know, there are some flat earthers that legitimately believe in order for their theories to work, Australia can't exist. And so instead, everyone who's Australian is actually a crisis actor living on an aircraft carrier trying to trick the world. And so
he explains all the shark attacks, right?
It does. And he's embraced his inner crisis actor, and he just wants you to know he really does love his aircraft carrier.
Absolutely. Can I tell you, the fuel costs are terrible.
Yeah, but the Bloomin' Onion is one hell of an aircraft carrier. I'm just telling you.
Do you know, the only time that I had encountered the Bloomin' Onion was at an Australian-themed restaurant in Sydney, which was bizarre. So it's like an American chain doing Australian stuff in Australia that's not Australian. It was so bizarre.
Are you talking about Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got those here too. That's where it's from. How does that go over with the locals? Do they just like point and laugh?
Oh, look, after we got from you guys, was it the Lone Star restaurants where they have like all the peanut shells or something all over the ground?
Yeah.
I think we try and take it in our stride, and we appreciate the sharing of cultural content.
So a lot of the steakhouse places that used to let you throw your peanut shells on the ground as part of the ambiance, because you would do that when the ground was actually dirt because it would soak up stuff, right? Like it was hygienic. It was like you put rushes on the floor to back in the day. But eventually someone slipped and sued, and so they don't really do that anymore. They still serve the peanuts, but now they give you a jar to put them in. Like they serve it in little metal buckets, and then they give you a second metal bucket for your empties, because you can't throw
a third metal bucket for if you've eaten too much, or
probably. I have found since I've been working out and losing weight that I don't eat as much. So, the vomitoria might be a requirement if I try to go back to my old ways. But so the Bloomin' Onion, yay or nay? Did you like it?
Yeah, actually, it's not bad. We definitely use a fair bit of onion, and obviously, as Americans, you like your barbecues. We love them too. So there's a lot of onion frying for a good barbecue.
So onions actually are one of the things that when the first penal colonists came to Australia, because I did a little bit of the history just, because I watched that one show about the first penal colony. And so I got curious and I looked stuff up. And that was one of the things that surprised some of the first guardsmen, because they wrote it in their journals about some of the plants that were the same. And onions were one of the ones that they got onions here too.
Well, that's interesting. There are sort of a bunch of native plants that are nice to eat. I've never sort of investigated, what onion equivalents there were, but okay, that's interesting.
Well, I'm not looking at primary sources because I don't have access to this on this side of the pond, so I'm trusting the internet that's supposedly sending me screenshots of these primary sources. So it's entirely possible I was bamboozled.
Do I start to ask you what were these onions wearing, or
right? I am perfectly open to say, they got me. I was bamboozled. But it would not surprise me because, what it takes to grow an onion is not, you could do it almost anywhere. It's a pretty hardy vegetable. So, it doesn't, or is it a vegetable? Technically, it's a root. I don't know. Whatever. It's pretty hardy. So there are a lot of places.
If there is an Australian onion, you know that it's venomous, right?
Probably. The only thing in Australia
bite you if not
I can't tell you, it's not because it doesn't want to, it's just not strong enough. So, and when I write my blurbs, I always try to be a little tongue in cheek. And for this one, I wrote, when you're not fighting the Drop Bear Incursions and the Emu Invasions, you write books. Because I understand, the Drop Bears try to get you all the time.
Look, that's why I train in sword fighting, because you just got to be ready for the drop bears.
But they built you guys different over there. I've seen a video where this like python-looking massive snake is in this house, and this little girl, she can't be more than 4 or 5, is chasing it around with a broom, giggling. And I'm like, if that was America, we'd have grown men screaming like little girls and running, because that's just not something we deal with. And then you got a little girl who could be launched to this thing, and she just got no F's to give, and she's just giggling and chasing it with a broom.
I reckon that one is from Queensland, where it's a bit tropical, and I think there's something in the air. The humidity does it to people.
Yeah, I sent you this. This is before Sora or whatever that AI video making thing was a thing. This video, I saw it last year, and I remember sending it to you, and that's what you said it was from. And even the mom comes home, and I'm like, okay, now the mom's gonna freak out, because dad's, I get. The mom was like, oh, she caught a good one, eh? I'm like, oh.
It's like, haven't you cleaned out your pythons yet? Damn it! I told you.
Right? Like, did it dust on the way out? I guess
could you cover a python with long fuzz to dust? I like that as an idea.
Yeah, that's one way to clean the pipes in a spaceship. Just send it through the shafts. Yeah. How would a snake? I mean, it has no like bones to worry about. I bet it could handle zero gravity.
Well, they do have bones. They've got the whole central spine.
Bones.
I believe with snakes' bones, sharks are cartilage. But that said, I've not asked a snake to do an X-ray, so
me either. I avoid them where I can. I call them nope noodles. I am asking the Oracle, otherwise known as Google, real quick. Apparently, snakes are vertebrates, and they do have bones.
There you go.
It is the backbone in the skull, so I was wrong. I don't know, because they're so bendy. I assumed it was cartilage.
Well, it's like you think a cat, was just made out of string or something. The way that they flex and twist, but so, apparently they have bones.
Yeah, I've got a radical theory. Cats aren't real. They're just animated golems sent to the world to torment them.
The torment part definitely fits. So look, I'm sold on this concept, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter, please.
Send all that. So we actually interviewed Emily Tanner was her name. She's an Australian author who, in addition to writing normal stuff, she wrote a Hamlet story that was actually really well written. And we interviewed her, and I made that joke about the aircraft carrier. And for like 3 months, I got nonstop flat earthers to my email because of that. So I'm hesitant to say that anymore. Like they were true believers. They were trying to convince me of the error of my ways.
They're just jealous because they want to go on an aircraft carrier.
Probably. The Harrier jets are pretty cool to fly, I'm told. So, all right. So I do want to dive deep into the woods of all things cool in Australian culture, because I think our listeners enjoy that on your previous interviews. But before we do that, you do have to pass the gateway test. So are you ready for our religion questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Warehouse 13, Eureka or Falling Skies?
Ooh, now, so I love, like, Warehouse 13 had this beautiful little mission of collecting all of the items. And I really liked, I can't remember his name, the actor with sort of, I think it was like dark brown beard. It was a little chunky. I really loved his character. Eureka, the sci-fi, that's the sci-fi town one, is it? Where they're
the
like,
super
sort of all doing advanced
technology,
which is pretty funny. Oh man, this is really hard as well, because Falling Skies, the alien invasion one, like towards the end, I thought it went like a little off the rails. It sort of gets into this sort of what I view as the same issue as Battlestar Galactica gets into, but I won't sort of spoil too much. But I think I'm gonna have to say Falling Skies, if for no other reason than that the very first episode is just brilliant. The whole idea of having this alien invasion, and the people having to pull back, trying to protect the civilians, and just being completely outclassed with weaponry.
So Falling
Brilliant.
Skies
I loved it.
did some things really, really well. One, it was the everyday hero rose up. Some of the military guys that you thought should have been the heroes turned to be, the first ones to cut and run or try to make deals. And then the guy that was like the history teacher who'd never been to war, he just studied history. And suddenly he's like the badass main character. So I really liked that. I liked that they were running out of supplies. It wasn't like, every time they went into a empty grocery store, they found stuff, right? Like stuff started going bad or, turning or they were running out of bullets and they were scrounging, because that's reality. Like stuff has shelf life and eventually you're going to run into that supply issue, and they addressed it. Now, obviously it's a TV show, so you can't have them have no bullets because they can't fight back, the series ends. So allowances are made, but they at least made a nod, right, towards logistics.
They did. Yes, and that sort of having to do the supply runs and the risks and sort of competing for what's left. It was really so many good things. So I don't want to just completely say, okay, the fact that it sort of went off into some, for me, less than ideal tropes at the end. It's not a big deal. I really enjoyed that. And that's not to downplay the other shows, but I think Falling Skies in that category just hits my apocalyptic thing. Funnily enough, history teacher, Wayfarer's Rift has a teacher as the main character, so I'm quite amused that that's come into it. But yeah, so cool. Aliens. Invasion.
Yeah, I like Eureka for different reasons. It's got the everyday sheriff, like just a run-of-the-mill nobody who accidentally stumbles on this town, and now he's like the shepherd for a bunch of super geniuses who are sheep that need to be led around because they're so smart they're stupid. And I really like that angle. And Warehouse 13 has a lot of similarities to Eureka for me and the sense of wonder, but it has Amanda Tapping, who played Samantha Carter in SG1. As the actress, and she was kind of awesome. So I liked all of them. There is no wrong answer here.
A good set of shows.
So if you have opinions, dear listener, be sure to comment down below, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. But because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, the Librarians, the Spiderwick Chronicles, or Shannara Chronicles.
Whew. Now, this is interesting. So the Librarian movies, have you seen those?
I have. They are awesome. I loved all of three of these again. So
so I haven't seen the TV series that was made from them, but I really liked the movies, and like the main character, the actor that does the plays the librarian, does such a good job. And look, yes, it's camp and a bit trashy, but it's so much fun. The Spiderwick Chronicles movie, that's really interesting. And I know the books there. I haven't had a chance to read the books from that. But the animation for these hideous goblin-like characters are brilliant. The way that they bring in the older sister and her fencing skills, that always appeals to me because I do like to have my sword stuff. I really enjoy that, and I liked the way they used lore in there to sort of give the characters options, but also danger. It was really cool having that that sort of the magical rules in play. And the Shannara Chronicles, is that the one that's the fantasy, but actually is far future?
It's a fantasy post-apoc. If you read it and you don't realize it, because I read it for years. I never realized it was a post-apoc until I watched the TV show that they did, which I actually thought was criminally underrated, and it didn't get the love it needed, so it didn't get the follow-on seasons. And I'm watching it, and they're going through this terrain. It's got an aircraft carrier lying on its side, covered in moss. I'm like, what the heck is that doing there? And so I went back and I read. I'm like, oh crap, it really was post-apocalyptic. And so, some of it's the world that built on top of the world of humans that died, essentially.
That's I think that's really fun when you look at these different worlds and you have characters that are describing something that we know, but it's not something that they know, and so it can be quite accurate, but because it's framed differently, if you're just reading through, you're not sort of really going, hang a second, it can be easy to, there's something just big there.
And it was
lots of fun.
Like one of the scenes where they're running through a school. I never placed that it was a school the first time. But then you realize the main cavern was the gymnasium.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it makes sense now.
I remember on the TV series, I think they go through like a tunnel with graffiti.
It's like a subway, I think,
like that. Yeah, might have. I remember going, okay, interesting. I think the TV show suffered. I thought the special effects were really nice.
Yes.
I think some of the acting was rough around the edges, but in YA sort of things, and my understanding is that Shannara does fit into the YA genre. Though feel free to burn me if I'm wrong there.
I always thought it was supposed to be, but I read it as an adult too, so I don't think it's childish, but I do think genre-wise it was slotted in. I could be wrong.
And like at a certain point, it doesn't matter. Like if it's not just completely filled with a love triangle, if there's more to it, then you can always expand from it. Something being considered YA. But yeah, I thought some of the scripting was a little rough around there, just some of the acting. So I think that maybe didn't give the source material the chance it needed.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of campy though. I think that could be fun.
Oh, look, I grew up on so many camp TV shows. We'll be talking about Sliders, I have no doubt, at some point, and you can't get much more campy than that.
According to Google, why it has some elements of YA, the books and the TV shows, they are not technically categorized as YA. Okay. But I can see the confusion because it has some of those vibes that you're used to. Because it's definitely appropriate to read at a younger age. We certainly did. So okay. And the last time you were here, you told us your favorite dinosaur. So this time I'm going to ask you, sir, what is your favorite zoo animal?
All right, I have many. I love all sorts of crazy zoo animals. Like from our sort of mad platypus. When you see a platypus, like you can see why they thought when they were sent back to England as samples, specimens, okay, someone's having us on here. This animal is not real. But oh man, like red pandas are so cute. I've started writing red pandas into little bits here and there in stories because they are like the cutest thing. Especially when they stand up and raise their paws to look aggressive and big. Like, I'm so big. And I love tigers. Just like so big. Like you look at a lion, you go, oh yeah, that's big, a little dangerous. And then you look at a tiger, and you're like, no, there's the murder kitty. There is the murder kitty. But I reckon I'm gonna say bear, because beyond the koala sort, which isn't really a bear, we don't have bears in Australia that aren't from zoos. But like when you look at a bear, the way like when they stand up, sure they got stubby legs, but you are not going to tell it that. You are not going to diss a bear because that bear's just going to give you one slap and your head's going to come off. And I look like giant head, fluffy ears, like they're so cute and so murderous. So I think I'm gonna have to say bear. And I won't pick a type. Grizzly, polar, not polar. Like polars are huge, but they always look like they're in need of a few good meals. So I'm gonna say not a polar bear.
So here's the thing, though. It is Christmas season coming up. We are airing this in December, and polar bears for the season will be bringing us all kinds of Santa stuff and Cokes. So I think we ought to just, in honor of the season, we ought to recognize the polar bear as its rightful place as the king of winter.
Well, maybe we do have in Australia. There's a brand of rum called Bundaberg, and they use a bear for their advertising. So maybe if they sponsor me, I'll change my mind.
Okay. So one of the crying shames. Oh no, wrong intro. Oopsie. So we here at the Black and Blaze podcast are civilized human beings. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
The funny thing is, because you say that, and I literally have next to me now. Ooh, the last drips of a cup of tea, which is hot tea, 1 sugar, bit of milk. And I also happen to have, so I got thirsty and was running low on caffeine. I have an iced coffee here as well. So I feel like I've got the bases covered.
You do. You nailed that one out of the park. Okay. So since we've got a little bit of time before we start talking about the books that brought us here. So what do you like? What are your Christmas traditions in Australia you think that are unique to you guys? Since we're airing this in December, people are gearing up for the holidays.
It's such a weird thing growing up in Australia because a lot of Christmas like TV shows and that so much has come from both the UK and the US. And so, there's all this snow everywhere and people are having all these, warm drinks and everyone's rugged up against the cold. But like an Australian Christmas is quite often a barbecue. Like it's maybe like cold wine. I mean, there's definitely eggnog around, but I view that as a crime against humanity. And the UN still have refused to investigate it. So what good are they? It tends to be cold drinks. Eskies. So Eskies like a cool box, like an insulated box where you throw ice and your drinks and that in. It's a brand here.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
Eskimo coolers.
Yeah. Here the just the big brand was Esky, and so that's what they've all become.
Okay.
So that's really common. Still get roasts like turkeys and things like that. Like decorating wise. We get areas where there's heaps of lights out. So some streets will do most of the houses will put on these massive light displays for Christmas, and then get these big queues of people walking down and that to go see them. So there's lots of that. We love like tinsel, all the shops obviously. But you have this weird sort of because Halloween's not so big here. So there's like, here's some Halloween stuff, but they know where the money is. So like in the middle of here's some Halloween stuff, there's also look at all the Christmas stuff over here. It's shiny, yes. So you have this weird overlap, and then the moment Halloween's gone, all that stuff they throw it away because they need that space for more Christmas decorations. But we have things for my family. Our kids every year get a different reindeer. And so they're sort of slowly building up these reindeer collections that can only come out during Christmas. And we have this rule: no Christmas decorations until the 1st of December.
Our has that rule too.
And then we generally have, depending on how good we are, 12 days later, sometimes it's January the 1st, around that time, Christmas decorations have to go away. Just otherwise it ends up hanging around forever, collecting dust, and it stops it from being special if you're, if it's up all the time. So
pretty soon your Christmas tree becomes a Valentine's tree, becomes the 4th of July tree. I know people that have done that, have turned their tree and they just decorated for every season at this point because it's one of those artificial trees.
We have an unreasonably large tree. This is, despite having lived in small places here and there, we've always ended up getting trees that are too big. So it really, when it's time to go down, it really has to go down. I don't know if you get debates over what color tinsel. Like in our family, there are debates around the colors that you can have each year, and we try and get a different variety each time around.
Well, I'm colorblind. I just smile and nod. when it comes to decorating decisions.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think I get a lot of say in it, but I nod and pretend I have a
So
serious.
is your wife from Australia as well?
Yeah. So,
Because I know
but very much.
You've been from all over. You've lived in England and in other places. So I just you and I have talked in the past. You've brought some of that culture with you when you went home back to Australia. So I was just curious if she had some of that cosmopolitan approach to her traditions as well.
Oh, I think so. I certainly brought the tea drinking back from the UK.
Brisbane had, they got their tea back.
Yeah, tea bags on the tree. So my wife is like sort of half that sort of English background, half Latvian background. I don't like. I think a lot more of the Latvian stuff shows up in the food, of which some of it looks very impressive. Often not to my taste, but it's quite impressive stuff. They have things like borscht, which I think like that whole Eastern Europe through to Russia sort of thing, that you end up with this purple potato stuff, which looks like it's perfect for Christmas. The sort of ready.
My family eats it too.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good. Puts hair on your chest.
I think we're pretty Australian in our generic how much shiny stuff can you stick on a tree?
So do you guys do like the caroling and all that kind of stuff? Or is that just an American thing?
There's a lot of that. My wife sometimes likes to do it and sings, and sometimes gets the family out there to that. I am not a Christmas carol person, so I'm more of a bar humbug when it comes to Christmas carols. Just a couple. There are a couple of good tunes, but otherwise it's long. It's like, there's only so long I can spend seeing how much melted wax I can get onto things without burning myself with the candles.
So as a kid in choir, I learned this very important lesson. If you just mouth watermelon, they can't tell you're not singing. Because it looks like your lips, if you mouth watermelon, no matter what the lyrics are, it looks like you're in sync to it.
You can tell if I'm singing because everyone's running away. I do not have a good singing voice. So let's put it that way.
Okay. So before we air the commercial, do you guys have traditional like family traditions that you do, like stocking stuffers, that kind of thing that you do as your family? Like we do the stocking stuffers. Yeah. But generally in our family, we're always like underwear and like hygiene products for whatever reason. So like deodorant and toothpaste got stuffed in the, and then like I grew type toys.
As a kid, I grew up in an era when we had to supply our own stationery as kids for school, whereas here, at least in Australia, now the school supplies that. But so I grew up with this love for stationery because it would come in Christmas. It would come in stockings and that with Christmas. We do have a thing, but we sort of upgraded from stockings, which is bad because like generally I wouldn't consider myself over the top, but for Christmas we do go a bit over the top. So we've got pillowcases that we do for the kids, and what we do is we get I helped start them off, but now they're mostly doing it themselves. Use fabric paint, and they add an illustration, a drawing of some sort, each year to their pillowcase, and write down the year as well. So that way, over the years, they've become more and more decorated.
You've just challenged every American that's listening. Like, he's upped the stockings to pillowcases. We can't have him beat us. Let me rush to buy the pillowcases.
Here's our quilt cover that we now
right. Our circus tent, but is now full of stuff. Okay. So before we move on, with the actual Wayfarer's Rift series, you did mention that you loved all things sliders because you loved Portal Fantasy, and I too am a sucker for Portal Fantasy. So is that something you've always loved, or is that something you discovered later in life? Because like Stargate essentially is Portal fiction. A lot of the isekai stuff that's really popular right now, mortal fiction. It's just a popular trope right now, I think.
It is, but it's one of those things where often people haven't thought about it as being a genre. So yeah, you go back to Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. No, the wardrobe is the portal to this other world. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit's hole. There is your portal into another world. And like for me, I reckon it's if you ever watched the D&D animated cartoon from the 80s, they go into a world, into another world. The Doctor Who TV show. I was sort of thinking about it the other day, and the TARDIS is a portal, right? Because it allows the Doctor character and the Doctor's companions to go from a fantasy world to a high tech world to the modern world. All these things just by going through the doors of this box. And so while it's meant to be a traveling device, really it's a portal. So there's so many rooms for cool stories from that because you can take characters anywhere. So I think that's what got me started. And as well as that, there's this series that might have been called Otherworld. It's an American series where the characters, the family went through to they're in Egypt, and they check out the pyramids, and something happens and they end up going through a portal into another world. And this other world sort of has these very separate sectors. And so even within that world, as they sort of travel trying to get back home, they're sort of going into different worlds anyway. I think that's actually up on YouTube for free, and I think it's called Otherworld. So that really just absolutely blew my mind as a kid. And then in camp territory, Sliders was just, I loved it. Yes, okay, it's problem of the week, and it's take a concept in society and take it to its extreme and see what happens. But it's still really cool. And the fundamental idea which they really play with in one particular episode is, how would you even know if you got back to the real world now? Because the time you take in traveling all of these worlds, how do you know what's changed back in the real world? Would you recognize it over time? So I absolutely love Sliders, and I've loved all of these different takes in so many different bits of media, like was it Maze of Madness? Am I getting this wrong? The Doctor Strange one. Sorry, my brain is melting on it. But recent Marvel thing, lots and lots of shifting between worlds, and in fact, the magic that occurs with the mirror dimensions and all that. It's portals, really. It's all shifting into different worlds, giving you the chance to play with different elements.
So French did that with the parallel mirror dimensions that as well. That was the whole plot point of it. Did you watch Quantum Leap? Also, essentially.
Oh, yes. Yeah. How could I forget Quantum Leap? Absolutely. There's Sam Beckett traveling from different points in history, having to fix things. I liked the idea of the Swiss cheese memory, so that he didn't always have a good knowledge of every fine detail, and left him, no matter how many times he traveled, still a fish out of water. Tron. So by now, Tron Ares will be out of cinemas, but the original Tron, and really both Tron Legacy and Tron Ares, there's a portal. Yes, it's a technological one in the sense that you're going into a digital world or coming out of a digital world, but that's still a portal. and yeah, Tron absolutely blew my mind as a kid. And there's also books as well. Have you heard of the author Stephen Donaldson?
I've heard of him. I haven't read any of his books.
All right. So he wrote two books, and I hope I'm getting right. It's Stephen Donaldson, Mirror of Her Dreams and A Man Rides Through. And in that world, they have portals, and they're done by making mirrors. And the whether the mirror is flat or curved has a big impact, but also the materials that go into the mirror will change what it connects through to. And so they use like mirrors that that go to, say, like a sea as a weapon, because then you can activate it, and this massive blast of water comes out. It's funny, actually. I think that might have influenced me a little bit on Wayfarer's Rift. Now I think about it, but yeah, they have this sci-fi knight that comes through a mirror, and so there's a real fantasy element, but because it's connecting to all these different worlds, they're using them very much as tools. But you get to play with a little bit of sci-fi and that as well. That one, the main character is a girl that's so she has some mental health issues, and essentially is wondering whether or not she exists. So she has all these mirrors in her apartment to try and prove to herself that she exists. And through one of these mirrors, she ends up getting dragged into this world. The author is a bit of a dark writer, so they're not like happy, cheery books, but definitely very cool. If you want to look at a different take on Portal fantasy, then worthy of doing. Oh, and of course, movies like Everywhere All at Once. And how many have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. It is somewhat mental with the way it shifts between worlds and things, but definitely recommend it. It is quite crazy with all these different worlds going on. That then, as a very recent take on Portal fantasy, I would definitely go with that.
Wasn't Labyrinth a portal that got them into the other worlds that they were
in? Yeah. I mean, it's spell portal. I mean, I think the technique that gets you there is less important that it does that. Multiverse of Madness was the Doctor Strange one, by the way. I just throw that in there. But yeah, Labyrinth definitely. A Jennifer Connelly who, when I was a little kid, was somewhat smitten by. Which goes. She goes into the labyrinth, and definitely like being there and back, and that crossover right at the end as to the puppet sort of coming into the real world. You go, oh, okay, is this now a permanent link in a way? Was quite cool. Book-wise, one of the most fantastic series, even if the writing's a tiny bit dated. There's an author called Roger Zelazny, who wrote I think it's called The Amber Chronicles, as the overarching sort of thing. But the first book's called Nine Princes in Amber, and in that book series, these princes and princesses of this place called Amber move through worlds by essentially shifting little details in their mind as they go. And so they build up these shifts in reality as they transfer through world to world. And so they can end up being in a completely different place, but they do it in increments. And all these worlds are actually a reflection of this central city called Amber. So while that's not technically a portal they're traveling through, you still get all of those critical elements of being able to shift into this huge variety of worlds. And there's another one, I cannot remember the the name of the series, but the classic role-playing game fantasy where people go into this fantasy world from the real world, and all of a sudden they are their characters.
Okay, that's a popular trope. That's that's the whole isekai genre too, which is it's just a Japanese word for the same concept of a portal fantasy.
Yeah, and like my understanding with isekai is often like once they're across, the real world doesn't matter as such, or our world, because I think often they sort of die and go, but
That's
there
a
are
trope, but it's not
varieties.
required. Isekai is literally just their word for portal fantasy. But one of the tropes that you see with isekai is that yes, they die and they wake up instead of the afterlife, they're in a new body, which is generally speaking better than their old body. And oh, by the way, it's almost like a Valhalla trope because they did great deeds in death, they get a second chance. This super cool, new body to chase the guys or the girls, whatever their gold, riches, whatever the plot of the story is. But it's a fun trope.
As I head towards 50, a new body sounds good.
Yeah, I remember when my knees didn't hurt, so that would be nice to have that back. So, okay, well, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly show for the man, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your specific portal fantasy. But first, we're going to air that beautiful bean footage.
Grab your swords and get ready to level up. When gaming journalist Ray experiences a tragic accident with the next generation of gaming consoles, he finds himself stuck in the mystical land of Valka. Trapped in a world filled with magic beasts, warring factions, filthy bandits, and a level system that's out of this world. The only problem is, his only way out may be through. Ray must fight like his life depends on it because it just may. Survival means victory, and defeat could mean the end. Forever. Legends Online Genesis. Releases on Audible January 7th. Digital and hard copies now available on Amazon.
All right, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And I really do need to get him to give me a new commercial because that's been out for a few minutes.
But it does sound good. It does sound good.
It does. They're on. I think the series is finished at this point, but it's such a on point for what you're doing that that I haven't bugged him to get a new one because that's actually Ross Bazell narrating it, the one of the authors. But okay, so where did you get the idea? And while you do that, I'll pull the cover up. Where did you get the idea that became Wayfarer's Rift?
It came from watching a movie that was broken. There's a disaster movie called How It Ends, featuring Theo James, who is the classic chiseled YA guy in the Divergent series, and Forrest Whitaker, who's been in everything from Platoon through to Star Wars. And you're going, okay, well, to some reasonable names here. This is going to be an amazing piece of work. And it was just broken. Like the actors, to be fair, even Theo James is, Mr. Chin going around, still did a quite passable job. And, Forrest was Forrest. He's good. But there's a couple of sections in the in the movie that don't work. And the ending really does not work. And it bugged me because I love a good disaster movie. I love a good apocalypse. And I was sitting there going, why does this feel so broken? And to be fair, the reviews that I've looked at feel the same way that it didn't work. And there's so much skill involved. So I wanted to work out why. So I actually went through and I was watching it and I wrote down all of the beats, so the little story elements that were happening to work out where it wasn't working. And I found a few of them and then, really sort of dug into the ending as well. And I was like, yeah, okay. I see there's this thing about halfway to 2/3 through that's really broken. And then this whole ending piece, I was like, okay, there's the classic, the mentor has to be out of the picture for this. Yep, fine. But then the ending just did not link in, did not tie into what happened before. It was like its own little mini story. And it was just broken in the way that it didn't follow the build up that came before. And then it finished on a note that was just like, we didn't know. How does it end? Well, we don't know. Let's spend the end of our special effects budget and go home. And so I read that and I thought, okay, how would I change this? And I started to think, well, okay, what do I like to play with? And I had, I teach sword fighting, mostly. I teach longsword, so a two-handed weapon, but I also do a bit of saber work, a little bit of rapier, though I'm terrible at it because I like slashing, and rapier is not always, but mostly a thrusting weapon. So I was like, you know what? I want to build in some of my sword fighting in there because I like that. And then I was going, okay, well, my protagonist, I want to play with something that I've not done before. And it's like, well, I was a teacher, so primary teacher for Americans. That would be an elementary teacher, and I was like, okay, well, let's go with a teacher character to do this. And okay, how can I twist the character? So I was like, okay, yeah, make them miserable in certain ways. And then the classic, well, okay, if you have sword fights going on with someone who knows nothing about sword fights, reality is they're going to be dead pretty soon. So I was like, okay, how can I build in that this character knows a little bit of sword fighting? So I sort of developed a couple of things to give this character this chance to do something. And then I was like, the classic then, right, to start anything that's a proper Portal story, you have to rip them away from their comfort zone. So I set up this environment, and I was like, yep, throw the character through this portal. And the thing about how it ends, Forrest Whitaker is the classic mentor character that isn't getting along. And it's like, really, are they the mentor character, or are they just sort of the cause of antagonism when the environment itself is sort of an antagonist? But deep down they're a mentor character. And so I sort of really played with, okay, what can I do to do that? And I thought of, okay, well, if you had like a Merlin-like character, oh yeah, but God, Merlin-like characters, they're a dime a dozen. Okay, what about if they were a really crotchety old woman, really bad-tempered? And I thought, okay, let's add more. What about if they're ruthless to the point that you can't work out whether or not they're good or evil? And so I had this sort of idea, and I started to play with it and do some outlining. And then I went in for surgery on my wrist to deal with some ongoing pain from, I don't know, blacksmithing, sword work, too much typing, whatever. And then I couldn't write because, my wrist had to recover. It was like swollen, giant balloon sort of thing. And so I actually dictated the story to myself using software, and it was horrendously incorrect because of all the voice to text errors. And then I left it for a little bit, and I wrote a short story about a guy going into a portal where I play with a little bit of nursery rhyme things, and it's not a bright, cheerful story, but I just have these little subtle bits in there to it, and that really got me going. You know what? I have this manuscript lying around from this Pool of Fancy that I haven't done anything with. I was like, oh, I'm excited, and so I rewrote that, and then I started working on the sequels and going, and all of a sudden I know exactly how book 3 is going to end. So I was like, yes, okay, get book 1 sorted, go through editing, get some readers and all that, and away it went. So I've been just living and breathing Wayfarers for a while now.
Okay. With this, is this going to be a standalone, or is this going to be part of a larger series?
So it's definitely a trilogy. So as we're recording this, I have the full outline for book 2, and I'm just under 20,000 words into the draft. By the time this airs, I would expect to be probably halfway through the draft. So I'm trying to focus and get these out as quickly as possible. Just because there's so being able to write all of these crazy worlds and have them tie into the story, and yet just throw my characters around. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. So I want to get that full trilogy out as soon as I can.
Okay. Is there room, do you think, where it could potentially get away from you and your trilogy becomes quadrilogy or more?
All right. So without giving things away, yes. So the arc of the story and certain character arcs will definitely be done. But there's a very much an open door for more. And the funny thing is, as I've been doing this, I've sort of been thinking about some of my other worlds, and the very first novels that I wrote that I haven't released because they're just too rough around the edges. But I realized I wrote a zombie apocalypse with minor superhero power elements, and the sort of force of what brings on the zombie apocalypse was magic, but magic through coming through like the space between worlds. I was like, you know what? I actually think, because I realized then when I wrote the end of the book, I hadn't thought about it for years, but technically that is also a portal. That it's a world in a portal fantasy. So I have this thought underlying a bit, maybe like the Dark Tower Stephen King thing, and not that I'm trying to compare myself to Stephen King. I'd love his sales, but
you can write an ending, so you're already ahead of the game.
In my mind, I think a lot of my worlds are going to exist within this metaverse of this this omniverse of the portal fantasy. That's not to say that there will be like clear elements within things, because I'm quite happy for my own series to be doing their own things. But I think now within my mind, I have this sort of omniverse that underlies it all, which is fun. It's fun as the thing. So even if it's not there within a particular novel, in my mind, it's still occurring in that place.
Okay. So what can you tell us about the main character?
Okay. So the main character is called Martin Drake. He has come up from a quite an abusive childhood, and eventually was brought up by his grandmother, who was sort of twisted in a different way. She has this this thing where she thinks the necessity of learning to fight and following this particular code has been passed down through generations. And so she forces him to learn how to sword fight, even though this is in the modern world. And as far as he's concerned, it's just, she's another crazy. And he becomes a teacher because he wants to save kids from what he's been through. But he's sort of in this position as this new teacher where he isn't able to change things the way he thought he'd be able to. He can't save kids in the same way. And also because I really love just stuffing my characters around, and I wanted to get us in early on. It's not too much of a spoiler to say he also loses his job early on because he's not fitting in to the school, and there are budget cuts, and as a new teacher he is just sent adrift, and so sort of We get a little early on, a little bit of a hint that there's a bit of magic going on, but as far as he's concerned, it's just a bit of oddness that he lives through. And then when going to just check down an alleyway because he hears a scream, he thinks he can go and help. He ends up in this situation and meets this this character called Blackbird. And she creates a portal to go through and for him to escape some giant wolf-like monsters. He ends up having to go through as well. And then he has to sort of deal with recognizing, is this a different world that I'm now in? Is this a time shift? Is it is this all happening because of technology, or is there magic? And sort of going through the story without, again, giving too much away, he has to learn what he's willing to do, where his own personal limits are. Can he trust people? Can he trust this lady who seems so dangerous, but also looks like his grandmother because she is a distant past relative? So I really like to throw a lot of things at him. And of course, sword fights, magic, getting him to play in with all of that is a ton of fun. So that's in there too.
What is the significance of what looks like it'd be a raven on the cover?
Okay, so this is a blackbird, blackbird silhouette that forms part of the cover. So Blackbird is the name of the character, and I won't give it away. There is actually a reason why she's called Blackbird, and if people look at mythology and things, they may well come to a conclusion. I am leaving a little trail of hints because I'm playing on a particular mythological thing, but it's not the be-all and end-all of the story, so I'm just leaving little breadcrumbs. And so if anyone reads it and thinks they know, they should message me directly, and I will happily let them know, but I'd like it to be something for people to discover. But yes, this bird, which doesn't look like a bird of prey, right? It's got talons out there, but it's not sharp-beaked, it's not hook-beaked, but it is still very much looking dangerous, and that sort of sums up Blackbird. She looks like this little old lady wandering around with the staff, but she is one of the most dangerous people around.
So since you mentioned danger, what would you say? I mean, you're a dad, you also write children's books. If you were going to rate this book, what would you rate it as far as, suitability for younger readers?
Yeah, good question. It is a book written for adults, so language, there's some swearing, things like that. It is definitely not a kid's book. I think it's about 115 or so thousand words, so it's probably a bit long for most kids anyway. So it is written for adults in mind, and so within this book, there are scary bits, but one of the things I like to do as we shift through these different worlds, I like to play on different genre elements that tie within that. And some moments it's not a horror novel, but there are moments where it plays on some horror elements in certain worlds to just convey what the character's going through. So, like a teenager wouldn't have a problem, but it is not a kid's book. Definitely not a kid's book.
Okay. At any point in time, is this going to be coming out? Because I know as an independent author, audiobooks are expensive. So at any point in time, do you think you're going to get an audiobook, or is this mostly going to be digital and print?
This would be fantastic, I think, as an audiobook, but it's just that initial cost. So if people buy, read, and get that budget together, I would absolutely like to make an audiobook. This is the first one where I have a hardcover as well, which looks super pretty. I didn't bring one next to me, so I can't really show it. But with that predominant white background, the image, it all looks so stark. It's fantastic, I think, anyway. But yes, I reckon once the trilogy is done and out, if people like it, if it sells, then I'd love to make an audiobook.
So, do you have any especially memorable secondary characters? You told us a little bit about the main character, but what about any particular secondary characters?
So, so there's two main secondary characters. One of them is Blackbird, and said sort of that sort of mentor role in there, but she is the keeper of the information of what's going on, and she is not interested in sharing. She has a mission, and as far as she's concerned, nothing else matters. All right, this mission is the be all and end all of everything that she is trying to do, and so I try not to give information so slowly that it becomes frustrating, but Martin trying to get from her what on earth is going on, why it matters, and all that is part of the story. Going in there, and we see one side of her, and do we see any other sides is a question that readers will have to go through, or is she just this hyper competent but dangerous character? And then we also have another character, Gwen, and they meet Gwen in an airship, and Gwen is comes across as a little crazy, quite dangerous, quite happy to kill a guard, no problems. Set off an explosion on an airship that is miles up in the air, and also sort of talks about multiple different backgrounds that she has. And you're going, is she a compulsive liar? Has she done a lot of things? Like what's going on here? And like her relationship with Martin is an important part of the story. I can't say too much about what's going on there, but the way that these three characters ultimately react, it gives us a really fun way to tease out what sort of personalities we're dealing with, and that each of them are dangerous, but in their own way. But the story plays on the fantasy trope of sort of in the end, is one person who has to finish it. And so for us, it's first person, so it's Martin's point of view, and sort of having these characters here, but in the end, the fact that he has to sort of push through himself creates really interesting dynamics with the other characters, and I'll definitely be revisiting certain elements of that in the sequels.
So one of the fun of books like this is the signed copies you can add to your trophy shelf or your library. I know because of shipping costs with Australia, you sell signed copies directly for Australian readers only on your website. If somebody not in Australia, be it wherever else in the globe, was willing to eat the expense of the exorbitant shipping costs, is that something that's available for listeners that want that hardcover signed by you?
Yeah, they would have to contact me directly. There's a lot of issues shipping into the US at the moment, so it's not just the shipping costs. There are complexities around the tariffs, and there are sort of reports of packages getting shipped back because the paperwork and things were not quite right and things like that. So it's hard, but if someone is willing to take that risk, because they'll have to take that risk, I would certainly love to do that. And like the hardcovers are just super, super pretty. So they're really nice to read as well.
I get paperbacks to read, but hardcovers for decoration.
Yeah, that's like I've sold more hardcovers than I thought I would, and I think that's because people love them as gifts. Because there's just something special about then having something so solid as a gift, and then to put up in the bookcase and look pretty.
They also double as home defense devices if in a pinch.
They do. It's pretty heavy, which doesn't help the shipping.
No, it doesn't.
But it's nice, and I do like on the back. I've got this nice little sword, which if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see, but I've got part of a sword on the back cover as well. Because I really tried to make the print versions pretty.
No, all right, hold on. Now, can you show it for those that are watching? Now that you're screen. Okay. This is the back of the cover. It's got a picture of the sword.
I should probably read out the blurb or something.
Sure.
So I'll do. So I'll put on my voice. I don't know if I can do the the movie trailer.
In a world,
I'll give it. Yep. Alrighty, here we go. Endless worlds, no time. My name is Martin Drake, and I'm a teacher. At least I was until I ran into a dark alley to save an old lady from rabid dogs. But dogs don't have that many teeth, and unlike me, the old lady could hold her own. So, when she slipped through a rift in reality, following her was my only choice. Now, I'm barely one step ahead of a terrible evil, crossing from world to world with Blackbird, a ruthless, magic-wielding wayfarer with a familiar face. Everywhere we go, there's a new apocalypse. To survive, I'll need a sword and magic of my own. To save all of existence, I'll need the luck of the gods. Gods.
The echo costs extra, people, but
it does.
Tip your waitress. We'll be here all week. So starting, you're an Australian author. One of the things that we've talked about in the past, because if you don't know, dear listener, Robert and I are in the same writing accountability group, so we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. I think people have gotten so used to books being American-centric that when someone doesn't and they don't use the Eurocentric style, that sticks out. So like people that write fantasy, but it's using Indian or Oriental inspirations, it stands out because it's already different, right? So it already has that sense of wonder. So for your setting, before he crosses over the main character into this fantasy world, is he starting in Australia?
So I don't specify within this, but I do use, because I have taught in 2 countries, in Australia and in the UK, and so I'm familiar with multiple school systems, and they are sort of similar in a way. So I work with that, but it's probably, it doesn't matter so much where they come from, because like Martin, even though like there's some intense stuff that we get into around his background, he's there for you to get that connection in, that human connection into all of these crazy events. So I didn't want to pull someone out by having them feel this isn't my world. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. So in language and tone, I'm sure there are Australianisms in there, phrases and things that we'd say differently from the way that you would. But I hope that adds flavor rather than confusion. But I don't have him being attacked by drop bears, which I should have. I should have had him being attacked by drop bears, but no.
there's room in book 3.
Oh yeah. Yep. Drop bears. All right.
Is he fighting fantasy type creatures? Did you pull from other, like, where did you get the bestiary, as it were, that you have him engaging with?
Yeah. Great question. So it depends on the world. So each place that is going to is essentially in the midst of some sort of apocalypse. So in the first world, they're essentially ghosts. Um, and so playing on a ghost apocalypse, which I actually written as a concept in a short story before, and it was one of the best received short stories that I've written. But that ghost apocalypse I loved, and then there's another one where really the adversity is a sea of lava that's coming in. I did. I don't know if you had the goodies over in America, but there's a TV show called The Goodies, where in one episode they just happen to have a giant cat that sort of starts knocking over buildings in London. And I have these really big, chunky British short hair cats. So they're sort of grey and they weigh about, what would you say in pounds? Like 14 pounds, which for a cat is pretty heavy. And so, well, what if it was actually about, I don't know, like 20 or so foot tall and had wings and, like metallic fangs. And, and so I like to take these ideas and really play with them. The characters go through essentially a hell world where there is no light, and so you never see these creatures, but they're walking over the bones of their victims, and so the crunching and the sliding and things. So
what you're telling us is you gave the cats a body to match their ego.
yes. And if you've ever been bitten or scratched by a cat, it hurts. So you can imagine one chasing you around that's essentially eaten an entire town. Yep, that's dangerous. That is really, really dangerous. The last world before the final sort of climactic world, I play with these light fibers that are just floating in the air and a bit sticky. And as you read through, is there any more? I'm so delicate with how I put it to begin with, that when you see what's actually going on, it's like this horrible combination of creatures. I was just like, yes, I love that. So I like to have the creatures sort of either like really within their setting so that they really make sense within what's going on, or I like to find those things that can be human fears or human myths and just amp them up so that they've got something that's both fresh but also really feels dangerous.
Okay. Where do you find the inspiration for all of these worlds that they're hopping through?
I think essentially it comes down to, I know, because you can't just have jumping between worlds. The character development and the challenges for them have to be going with it, and so it's essentially, I find that I will start to have them go into a world, and I will just have a bit of a thought about what's a fresh sort of landscape, and it might be like an abandoned seeming city, but with drones floating around, and this city is super flash and looks a bit futuristic. Okay, well, what's going to be the danger within there? And so, in that particular world, it's essentially a post robot apocalypse, and so there's a dangerous mech like thing. So if we remember from RoboCop, the sort of soldier like thing on which is much more militaristic than RoboCop. I sort of played a bit with a machine like that because has that nice. Oh yeah, you can imagine this within a city, but you can also imagine just how dangerous it is as well. So yeah, I think I like to work the setting a bit, and then as I work that setting and work out the challenge that I need for them, I then think of something that really fits and allows me to play up either the challenges of the environment or just that, fitting within the environment itself.
So you're describing Ed 209, Enforcement, what was it?
Is that
Enforcement Droid Series 209 or Ed 209?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh dear.
Just like I remember that weird stuff. Couldn't tell you what I ate for breakfast, but I could tell you that for some reason. So, other than following the Blackbird around, does he have his own magic without spoilers?
Essentially, I think what I would say is that to be part of the mission, he has to learn how to do certain things. So, yes, developing certain sorts of magic is absolutely there, and it is critical for him. This is not the sort of magic where people are just like throwing around spells and like fireballs and things. There is, there are definitely like ranged magic and damage and things like that, but it all really ties into this world of the Wayfarers and how they travel between worlds. Therefore, affects then what they can do. And so it's all sort of themed in there, and it allows for playing with that. Like if you can cut to through to a different world, or what if you cut through into vacuum? So you could. What if you cut into say the middle of a neutron star or something like that, where gravity was super intense? So there's room to play with the way this idea of being able to travel between worlds. Or what if you could also sort of just get little peeks into really dangerous environments as well? Can you use that? Is it just a weapon? Can you use it in a more clever way as well?
So that's the trick with a slider type storyline, which is what you've described, is you've got to constantly create the tension of out of the fire and into the frying pan. It's kind of tension. And so you're constantly one-upping it. But if you do that through 3 books, then it gets absurdum, right? Absurd. And so at a certain point in time, you have to have the tension be, it's still bad. It's equally bad. It's just equally bad in a different way.
Yeah, the part of the thing is there's always limitations help with any time you're doing like magic. Even if you're like the best sword fighter in the world, then if all they're doing is sword fighting, then it's going to be really dull because you know exactly how it's going to go. But ultimately, what the character is against is is so beyond what he's capable of that that's not a big issue as such. It's actually key into the story is how on earth do you defeat something that is what seems completely undefeatable. Where you're looking for hope. It's like what's the next step you can get there? But what that means as well when you're doing world to world, right? When you have these grand scale apocalypses or other things that have just gone horribly wrong, each time gives a challenge. And if the character themselves, if they could just throw around endless fireballs, fly out of danger and things, but by having magic work in particular ways, by having them be, like one person against an army, it doesn't really matter how good they are. Right, that person would have to work out something different. So it's actually not as hard as you think to both keep super fast pacing, while still giving them breathers, but super fast pacing and just allowing all these really different setups to completely challenge them in fresh ways, that makes them have to adapt and react. So it's not like the character gets main character Martin gets better at what he's doing. He improves, his approach changes, but at the end of the day, he's still just scraping by. And so by the time we hit the book 3 and what I have planned for book 3, that there's going to be that real big question of, well, can you become as powerful as you need to be to do what you think you have to do? That will be a very strong premise for certain characters within that, but I can't say more because that's book 3, and I better not get ahead of myself.
Okay. Is there anything we didn't talk about, because obviously we don't want to do spoilers about this book, that you think readers potentially need to know without spoilers?
Without spoilers, essentially, what I'd say is, if you're a person that really enjoys, like crazy destruction, if you like characters interaction, like characters with depth, but they don't spend forever moping because there isn't that time to spend moping about this or that. If you still want to have, like moments of crazy fun and dramaticness, but also having your heart torn out, then I think you will really enjoy this. Like just getting to explore all these different worlds, from airships to pure fantasy locations to high tech. It's intense. If you have sensitivities around things happening to children, there's just a few elements that might give you pause, but I'm not a big sort of, I don't like to wallow in certain things, so I still think it's even though it's a little bit sensitive about what might happen to kids, I think would still be all right. But I'll throw it out there, if it's super sensitive to you. Martin's background was rough, and there's a couple of other little bits there where you just have to be aware.
Yeah, I think everyone, that's a sensitive spot, but unless you're, you don't have a soul, in which case, are you even reading books? So would you live in this dimension slider world hopping universe?
Yes. I couldn't resist it. Because I'm obviously I'm writing book 2 at the moment, and some of the things I'll just throw in. There is a Wild West world with rabbit people in it, and so as I'm going through, and each time I come across these worlds, like some of them would be like terrifying to me, or I was going, oh, I think I'd live about 2 minutes here, but just to be able to travel to see all these different things, and it'd be amazing. Like if there was a movie version of this where I could just soak in all the visuals that are in my head, I would love it. I'd love it. So Hollywood, just knock on my door, duk, 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 and I'll be listening.
From your lips to God's ears, as they say. All right. So this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So to your part, it really does make a difference, especially for an independent author. And Black Sky Publishing, which is who publishes this book for Robert Tillsley, is also owned by Robert Tillsley, so it is a small press. And so if you want to help out, leave a review. It really does make a difference. And if it's not for you, but you think there's a reader in your life that would dig this, buy them a copy and send it on their way. And Reading's good for people, so spread the love. With that, Robert, how could they find you on the Wild Wilder interwebs? And as usual, links will be in the show notes.
Yeah, so the easiest way is like Tillsley.com, TILLSLEY.com. If you are wanting to buy direct and you're in Australia, Tillsley.com/store gets you there. On the socials, I am frequently on as R.Max Tillsley, which is what I use for my books for my younger readers, just RMAXTILLSLEY. And if not, I am usually just on as Tillsley. So you can find me on, because I'm old, on things like Facebook, and I am around here and there on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. And probably something else tomorrow, because they just constantly come up with new social media accounts and systems for me to forget about. But yeah, always feel free to drop me a line. I love talking to readers. Obviously, I'm on Amazon, Goodreads. So yeah, if you do read, if you're in the US, UK, things like that, you can get your print copies and your ebooks from Amazon and through other bookstores if you wish as well. But yeah, otherwise just find me online and say hi.
All right. And you can find us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blaze podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blaze podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blaze Facebook group and Facebook page. We've got our email, blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Abstai Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author.jrhandley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author.jrhandley. Be sure to play the comment section. This is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it pours out of their ears, and then they say, ouch, that's hot. If you want some of your own coffee brand coffee caffeinated goodness, you can use the link in the show notes. Discount code podcast grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And since Christmas is coming up, if there are any sales, to include Robert's book that happened post-recording this episode, we will be, of course, posting those sale prices, or the authors will, in our Discord and or Facebook group. So if you're looking for sales, if we know of any, we will be sharing them with you. If Robert does any sales, he'll share them with me, and I will get them out to you guys as well. If you have any Christmas traditions of your own that you want to share, for instance, replacing your stockings with not suitcases, pillowcases.
A suitcase would be a good start.
Suitcase would be take it up a level. But if you got your own traditions, we'd love to hear about them. So join us in the comments, and let's keep this party going. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blaze podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for coming on, Robert. This was fun. I appreciate you being flexible around time zones and the fact that you're in the future and all the stuff we had to do. And don't forget to tip the kangaroo that's holding the antenna for us.
Will do. No, thanks, Joe. I was like, I said that because I jotted a few notes down before. I was going, man, we could have talked like Minecraft, and I don't know if you ever read like Raymond E. Feist, like Magician, the Rift War saga. Like the more I think about it, the more like Portal stuff is like just everywhere.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to hit the end button before he gives you any spoilers, because I don't care, but you might. So with that.